Joined now by Fox Sports Radio's Aaron Torres and at Aaron Torres Podcast. Make sure you go and pick that up for more coverage of college basketball with Aaron, who has been around for a minute. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Jim, my pleasure. Excited to be with you guys. Hope everybody's doing good.
Yeah, it is that time of the college basketball season. Last year, we got a dose of – there was like a line that before last season, the tournament last year was unbelievable, spectacular, shocking, which it has always been that, but it kind of got ramped up to like, what the hell? And I expect nothing less this season as the parity is just spreading out like moss across a rock. But there are certain teams that we look at. I'm just talking to Mike DeCourcy. Purdue, even though they have a history of not doing what they're supposed to do, there's no way in the world to pick against Mount Edie and that team. Then you have UConn, and those two teams are kind of standing above everybody else right now. Kansas is a team that I would put up there as a Final Four team, but yet they just got beat by 29 last night. So it is it's going to be another fun and wacky NCAA into the season, I believe.
Let me ask you guys a question since you're in the belly of the beast. You know, it sounds weird to say, any team that hasn't made a Final Four since 1980, so that's 44 years. Is it Final Four or bust for Purdue right now? Because it's just, even last year they got the number one seed, but they took some lumps during the regular season. I mean, they lost to Indiana at home, and there's still a couple weeks left in the regular season, but I mean, they are trending towards an even better regular season than last year. What is like the vibe of this needs to happen for it to be considered a successful season for Purdue? I'm curious for your guys' perspective.
I think that they have to go to the Final Four. I mean, there's been too many, they've only, I looked yesterday, they've only been to 3 Elite Eights in this period since 1980.
Yeah.
Three. And everybody laughs about Indiana having fallen off. Well, they've still been to 6 Elite Eights in that same time frame. They've been to a Final Four 20 years more recently than Purdue. And I'm not comparing the two because Indiana's program is a mess right now, without question. And Purdue has been the model of consistency, but not the model of postseason success.
No, 100%. And that's I think been the knock on Purdue is it's not just, the lack of the Final Four, and it's not just the last 3 years. It's that, Matt Painter's been there since the early to mid 2000s. I forget exactly what year.
17 years, I think.
Yeah, it's something because I remember when they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson last year, and we don't have to relive all that. But, you go back and you look, and it's like, I believe it's like 3 Sweet 16s and 1 Elite Eight. So it's not just the lack of Final Four success, it's the lack of tournament success overall. And I think that's been my criticism of Purdue over the last couple of years is you can't keep selling me on all this regular season success if none of it equates to tournament success. And so it is an interesting conundrum because it is, like I said, if there's no historical precedent, can you say it'd really be disappointing if it hasn't happened? But I think absolutely, because again, Painter's done it all in the regular season. I don't want to discredit him. He's actually, by all accounts, a great guy. He actually joined our radio show on Saturday night and gave us about 15 minutes of his time. So this isn't a knock Matt Painter because I'm appreciative of everything he did for me last weekend and what he's done as Purdue's head coach. But you do sit there and say, okay, you're closing in on 20 years in a power conference. I understand that where you started maybe wasn't the best, but I mean, you've been pretty consistently there the last 12 to 15 years since you really had Robbie Hummel and Etuan Moore and all those guys. And it's like at a certain point, you either got to, or get off the pot here. And it's like, this does feel kind of like the year where if this ends in a Sweet 16 and you're a 1 seed and you lose to the 6th best team from the Big 12 or something, I do think that has to be considered a disappointment.
Without question. Not only that, for the Big Ten, because it's a watered down conference without question this year. even though we thought it would be a little bit better than it has been. I don't know what in the hell is going on in Madison. A team that had looked as consistent as anybody, they've lost 4 straight. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how that's possible with a team like that, but they have.
Well, and it goes a little bit back to Purdue for a second. I mean, it goes back to where I'm hesitant. I don't know why, but I was thinking about Purdue this morning. Maybe it was knowing that I was coming out with you guys. On the one hand, I do think it's Final Four or bust. On the other hand, you do look at the Big Ten, and again, they're pacing at an even better trend than they did last year when they ended up with a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. But it's not as though they're getting the stiffest competition on a night in, night out basis. And to your guys' point, I think Wisconsin is the perfect example of that, right? Is that, you go there 2 Sundays ago, it's a top 10 matchup. You think, okay, you got this big road win. This is really the statement of the Big Ten so far. And Wisconsin has since lost back-to-back games since then. And so, Wisconsin is struggling. Obviously, Indiana speaks for itself. Iowa is down from where it was in previous years. Rutgers is down from where it was in previous years. Penn State made the tournament last year and won a game. They're obviously not trending that direction. So I could go on, but you look at the league, and it's a credit to Purdue for winning all these games that they have to win. But it is also like how much are they being tested on a night-to-night basis, because virtually every program is down from where they've been historically.
Yeah, and now that with college basketball being the way it is with the transfer portal, you cannot underestimate anybody from anywhere, any conference. It no longer matters.
Nope.
Indiana fans are, of course, they're up in arms. The 3rd year of Mike Woodson is far from what they had hoped or wanted or expected by many of them. And with good reason. I mean, 3rd year in, there you've got 2 different camps. You've got one camp that kind of still lives in the old style of college basketball, where it took 3 to 4 years to build a program. Well, that's no longer today. Now you can come in and you can build quickly with the portal, if you have resources. Indiana's got a ton of resources. When people say that Indiana's not relevant, I just kind of laugh. I go, trust me, they're relevant. Indiana's just a sleeping giant.
It is.
That's why the fan base is just it stays the way it is, no matter what, and that's why they're up in arms. But it's time for Indiana to make right decisions. It's time for Indiana to get it right. It's just time to stop this, because there's no reason for Indiana not to have a solid program with the talent that comes out of this state, with the resources they have, with the fan base, with Assembly Hall, they have one of the best NIL programs, yet they're not getting it done. And there's the excuses are running a little thin in that area.
Well, and I think it's what's ironic is that first of all, I am surprised a little bit, and I'm not saying what you said is wrong, Jim, but like as an outsider, you did make the NCAA tournament each of the last 2 years. You won a game each of the last 2 years. And listen, the Miami team that you lost to was really good last year. Obviously, they made a Final Four. But I also understand that, limping in as a 9-10 seed, whatever they were, and then obviously this year's just been off the rails. It's disappointing. And I think the thing to me that's been most surprising is the place where I thought Mike Woodson would struggle when he took the job, and I was very critical, and Indiana fans weren't fans of me for a very long time, is I thought it was going to be the recruiting. And that's obviously been an area of strength. I mean, one, just to retain the players that he did up from the previous regime, most notably Trace Jackson Davis. And then, of course, since then, to get a Mackenzie Mbako, to beat Bill Self head-to-head for him, to get a Khalil Ware out of the transfer portal, to get a Xavier Johnson out of the transfer portal, who I know Indiana fans are up and down on. You just go on and on down the list, is that I think that's the part that's been surprising to me. He's actually been a very good recruiter, a much more effective recruiter than I expected him to be. And I thought that was my area of concern when the hire was made, was you have a guy that's been out of college basketball for 40 years, coming in at kind of the most transformational time in the last 40 years, with NIL and the portal becoming a thing over the last 3 or 4 years. And so the funny part is, or the ironic part is, maybe is the right word, is that the one thing that you thought would be an issue, or I thought at least would be an issue, has actually been an area of strength, and it's been the on the court results that haven't gotten there. And I also think, two things they don't have to be mutually exclusive either. I think because the recruiting has been so good, it has raised expectations. I, for one, thought that they were probably in that second tier in the Big Ten behind Purdue coming into the year. They clearly haven't been. And so, it's a weird, frustrating time. And I do, because of the things that you said, Jim, about the NIL and about everything that Indiana can be, I do understand why fans are so frustrated.
Yeah, to go along with your recruiting, they have done great in recruiting some big names, Malik Renew and Galel Ware and Liam McNeely coming in. But where they have failed or missed are the ancillary pieces around them.
Sure.
Guard play has not only has it not been good, there's no depth whatsoever, and there is zero shooting. But a lot of that, or part of that, is because it's not being embraced in Mike Woodson's offense, the 3-point shot. And then again, I look at Purdue's numbers; they're off the chart as a team. They're shooting 40%, which is nuts. But Indiana has just not shot the ball from behind the arc very well with what they have either.
No, 100%. And I certainly know that is the frustration, if you will, of the fan base. And, I'm not a fan. I'm not here to say what's right or wrong. But, whatever it was against Illinois, when it ends up being and the Illinois game is just an example, but whatever, I think it's a 4 or 5 point game with a minute or two to go. And you're 0 for whatever from 3, and you finish shooting whatever 0 for 11 or 0 for 12 or 0 for 19 or whatever it ended up being. It's an area of frustration. And so, I don't know if Mike Woodson is willing to change. I don't know if he's willing to change his style of play, but this is the new era, and I mean, you look at that state that's bordering you, Kentucky's got its own issues, but it really started in previous years on the offensive end. Now this year, the offense is good, but they can't get defensive stops. But it's just interesting because Calipari was kind of the same way. He kind of embraced athleticism and defensive ability. And this year he went all in on offense. And for about, the first probably 8 to 9 weeks of the season, it looked like he made the right decision. Now that team is struggling in its own right. But again, just kind of a coach of kind of the same age range, the same era with many of the same problems right in your backyard there, guys.
Yeah, and then you see how about Indiana State?
Great story, man.
I don't think anybody saw that coming into the top 25.
Well, no, I mean, the crazy thing about them, I was just talking to somebody over there yesterday. I mean, sometimes, and to your point, Jim, it's an evolving world of college sports, but, sometimes you get these mid-major teams that return a lot, and it isn't a surprise to the guys in the building, even if maybe nationally it is. But that was a team in Indiana State. I mean, they only had 4 scholarship players that came back this year. Now, one of them was Robbie Avila, who of course is kind of a internet sensation or whatever, all that. But for the most part, I mean, their leading scorer, Swope, was a transfer. A lot of their main contributors were transfers. And so, again, I think when a mid-major team has success, we kind of assume, well, maybe they were able to keep the core together and the portal wasn't an issue. No, they were in the portal just like anybody else. But they found pieces that fit. The guys that came back believed in the vision. The guys that came back helped the guys that were coming in transition. And so, I mean, I don't think there's any question to be beyond 22-3, to be ranked in the top 25. I believe this is the most wins that they've had in any season already since the Larry Bird team of 79. Just absolutely incredible. And, listen, I'm not enough of a bracketologist to know if they have any chance if they don't win the Missouri Valley, but that's the kind of team I hope that they are in that field of 68 and that they do have a chance to kind of show the nation how good they are on a national stage.